Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we have Troy on. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing pretty good for the shape I'm in here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Very cool. So we're going to just touch on a little bit of your bio so people know some of the stuff you've done, some stuff you're doing, some stuff you're going to do, like a future man.
Right on.
So for people that don't know you, um, let's talk about some of the things that you've done early on into the music career. You know,
Yeah,
let's
of
start
course,
there as
man.
part of that.
I think probably the most notable thing that I've done. I was in White Lion from 2005 to the end of 2008. We put out a couple live albums. Put out a studio album called Return of the Pride. That would be the most notable thing, and I think from that experience and that affiliation, playing with Mike Tramp, touring the world and doing those albums, that allowed me to, outside of also being just a nagger and just trying to get, play with my heroes, that would be the most notable thing. But I played with guys like, Bullet Boys, Gilby Clarke, Janie Lane,
Yep.
played in a band called the Raskins, did the Motley Crue, Alice Cooper tour in 2014. And I'm pretty much a blue collar rock and roll mercenary drummer, and I'm a go-getter, and I try and play nice, and I've
Yeah.
had some great experiences because of that.
I wouldn't call it nagging. You'd say you're hustling. It's not nagging.
Yeah,
When you're a child, when you're young, you want cookies. It's nagging.
right,
When
right,
you're grown
right.
up, you're just trying to get some work. It's hustling. um, well, it's a really good list of people you've been working with. Let's start. So with White Lion now, how was that tour? How was it touring? Did the fans welcome you?
Yeah, for
You know
sure.
what I'm
I
saying?
mean,
Like,
ultimately, I toured with Mike Tramp doing a solo tour in 2001 for the Capricorn album that he put out in '99, and
it's a good album.
because Mike is based abroad. By the time he got here, it was in 2001, and ultimately, when you're singer songwriter that travels in all these different markets, you might put together bands all around. So when White Line came together, we had an Australian guitar player, we had a bass player from Copenhagen. We ultimately ended up having a keyboard player, and then myself here in the States. And I'd like to think that Mike picked his best guys, from all his experiences to put together this White Line, because obviously,
How do you find you? How do you
you
find you?
know,
Sorry.
uh, great question. I was playing in a band in LA called Dragon, and we would play with these guys called Choking Ghost and John Stack, a friend of mine, great singer, songwriter, guitar player. His drummer uh, was playing in a band with Jerry Best and Kenny Carade. Now, those two guys were from Freak of Nature, which was the band that Mike Tramp put together
Picture was
after
that?
White
Yep.
Lion. So when Mike was going to come to the States in '01, he obviously called Jerry and Kenny and said, "Hey, let's go do this." Well, the drummer couldn't do it, couldn't be gone that long. So they were putting out feelers. So the drummer said, "Hey, John, I don't know if you know any rock and roll drummers, but I
Mm.
can't do this tour with this Mike Tramp guy. Do you know anybody?" And John goes, "Yeah, dude, I know the guy." And so I went down, picked up a CD from Jerry Best and learned 3 songs, played with those guys. And Jerry said, "Hey, I'm gonna put the stamp on you and recommend you." And I said, "Right on." So I started talking to Mike, and we rehearsed twice, and then we got in the van and headed down the road. So that's how I started playing with Mike Tramp. It was because somebody else couldn't do it, and I was able to do that, and really changed, ultimately the course of my life by playing with all these other bands, because I had a taste of what that felt like. And
Yeah.
ultimately, when he put together White Line in '05, he called me up and said, "Hey, I'm going to do this." The other guys weren't there around.
Right.
Vito and Mike were not on good terms
No.
at the time. I think they are now. And so ultimately went out as Mike Tramp's White Lion, and that was something I was a part of for better part of 4 to 5 years.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm not trying to get into the Mike Tramp Vito stuff either. I do think they are on good terms. I think he stated he's not doing any kind of white line anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
But
when he does his
yeah,
solo stuff, he's kind of a singer songwriter, kind of like a Brian Adams, Bruce Springsteen.
yeah,
So he's kind of retooled those songs to kind of fit what his solo career has been like. So you're going to hear a little fighter, but it's not going to sound like 1987. You know what I mean? It's going to sound a little different, a little bit more mature. The vocals are down a couple notches in register, and so he's doing it his way, and I think he does a great job with it. I mean, listen, people want to hear those songs, and if he's able to fit it into his mold that he is now, I think it's a great thing. I mean, you can't ignore the past.
I don't actually, I support it, and I'm really flexible in my opinion on all bands. Like if a couple band members are in it, it's still, it's like a job. You still do it. You still like it. You shouldn't just start out, like you get a divorce, you get rid of the kids. You gotta kind of work where you're comfortable. I think he should do the songs if he digs them, and I think he has so many songs to choose from too. So that's gonna be kind of hard if he's got to, choose to take some songs out of the set because he's got to play some of the hits. That's gotta be a little
Yeah.
hard too because he writes. He's very prolific, so that's gonna be a challenge.
It's always difficult. I mean, obviously, when you want the guys there that you bought the album cover at wherever you buy your albums these days, and you want those guys to be there. But the other option is you either get something, or you just don't go see it, or it doesn't happen. So I think for the fact that Mike went out to try and deliver those songs once
Yeah.
again, a decade and a half ago, I think was a good thing. And, listen, people, they can choose to go see it or not go see it. But I would rather have it out there. I mean, listen, a lot of these bands from the 80s, there's only one or two guys left
Mhm.
to either do it or that want to do it. So, I'd rather have, something than nothing.
I agree. I think it's, I think it's good. And I also don't think he just fell into the right spot. I mean, this kind of thing, like, they've been talking to people, especially a lot of people right now in the genre. You're just good. You're kind. You work hard. That's the rock and roll attitude. It's not like in the well back we just need to have like long black hair and Jack Daniels to be in a band. You know what I mean? Now you
Yeah,
just want to be in a rock band. You gotta be a nice person. You gotta hustle. And you gotta work.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a different time and a different place now, and I think a lot of those guys and then myself just being sort of that mercenary guy, it's an honor, privilege, and you got to stay humbled and be happy that somebody still gives a crap about you or these music or the bands that you're a part of.
Mhm.
So I don't take it for granted for sure.
That's really cool. That's excellent. So you do a lot of session work. Who else have you worked with in that time when as you were kind of getting your stature up, your name out there? You started working with a few artists in
Yeah,
sessions.
gosh, I played with Mick Sueda from Bullet Boys. We had a band
Yeah.
called Lala Gag, and I just started finding my way into these bands, as the go-to kind of guy. Hey, the guy's got his crap together, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, shows up to the airport on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things actually become, if not more important, equally as important as your performance. So
Hmm.
listen, there's a lot of great drummers out there, and I certainly am not the best one out there, but being the full package, I think, is really key. So, with that being said, man, it's I've been fortunate to play with a lot of my heroes. Whether in their band that they're notable
Hmm.
for or in side projects. I played with Tracy Guns in a side project with him. Never,
Which we have that.
nothing ever really happened with it. We demoed some songs, with him and Muddy Stardust.
Oh
Muddy was
wow.
also in LA Guns.
Yeah.
But man, the list is sort of endless of some of these guys. Like I said, Janie Lane. Been playing with Gilby Clarke for a decade now, and Bang Tango. I mean, it's just I play with a lot of cats, man, and it's been fortunate. It's been really
That's
awesome.
really good. That's really good. So, do you play any other instruments besides drums, though?
No, 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 no. That's it. That's it.
You're the only person in LA that, or yeah, are you in LA or Vegas?
Las Vegas, man. Yeah, yeah.
You're in Vegas.
Yeah, I
That
left
plays
there
one
7
instrument.
years ago. Yeah, I might. I'm still trying to master the drums, so you start mixing it in with too many other things, and you end up being a what?
I
What
don't
do they
think it's a
call it?
bad thing either way. You know what I mean? I've actually been more surprised to hear how many people play one instrument and they're like, "Oh yeah, I do that when I play on stage," but really what I play is, these five other instruments, and you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh
well,
wow,
there's
okay,
guys like Brent Fitz, drummer for Slash the Snake
yeah,
Pit. Well, not Slash the Snake Pit. I'm sorry, Slash and the Conspirators. But
contributors and
a lot of different bands. But Brent's actually a pianist, and that
yeah,
really that's his forte. Like if
his,
you ask him, what his I think his go-to instrument would be, although he's known as a drummer, he's
mhm.
a pianist. So there are a lot of these guys that do these other things. There's a lot of great drummers out there that are great at all other instruments. I am not one of those guys. I do what I do and that's it.
Excellent." So you have a radio show.
I do. Yeah. I've been
How'd that
doing
come about?
you know, uh, great question. A gentleman here in Las Vegas had a radio show on a network called Radio Vegas Rocks. and they were doing some sort of promotion at one of the clubs here. I should say casinos here in town, and they were doing like a Buck Cherry and some other bands,
Mhm.
and uh, they were looking for some artists and some people to interview. And a buddy of
Yeah.
mine said, "Hey, this radio station thing, they're interviewing people, they're promoting this show. You want to come down and rap a little bit?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we talked, and afterward, he goes, "Man, you got the gift of gab a little bit. You ever think about doing a radio show?" And I'm like, "Man, I've been listening to talk radio for my entire life, and but no, I never thought. I'm a huge fan of Howard Stern. I listened to Tom Likas back in the day, John and
Mhm.
Ken in L.A., Johnny B, Jonathan Brandmeier, the Loop. So anyway, short story longer. He says, "Hey, if you want to come do a radio show, spin some tunes, and whatever you want to do it." So I started that about 3 years ago. I'm now on a new network called Dirty Radio.fm. We've got two different channels. We've got Dirty Radio and Dirty Radio Classics. My show is called This, That, and the Other, and it's on Dirty Radio Classics Wednesdays live 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then we do a Saturday replay. And we do everything, this, that, and the other. We talk about stuff like this. We have guests of all walks of life: musicians, actors, news people, people that have been in the news.
Mhm.
Just regular citizens for whatever reason. We do some phony phone calls. We do some silly stuff, and of course, we spin a lot of rock and roll. Bands that I've been a part of, and just new stuff. So I've been doing that for a better part of 3 years, and most recently, it's really kind of the only thing I'm doing. It's allowing me a way to survive this pandemic and
Yeah.
not really having a means to do drums because we're kind of shut down everywhere.
Let me take a minute though. We'll go back and to your radio thing and pick your brain on it. Like everyone else, I've done a different music jobs in my life, and I did some radio for a while too.
Sure.
So not speaking, but I did a lot of behind the scenes board work and AM/FM. Now, is this a radio station and online? The first question would be that.
We're online at dirtyradio.fm, and we have an app. So it's worldwide on online through
It's
your browser
online.
or through our app. Yeah.
I know sometimes there's an online to go along with because say it's based out of Vegas, station, and then to be online also. You know what I'm saying? There's usually a tie-in. So
Yeah.
strictly
Yeah.
online. Okay.
Yeah. Strictly online.
So you control everything on your show? You picking the
Everything on my
songs? Or
show.
they
I'm responsible for the for the good, the bad, and the ugly.
picking all your songs and stuff
Yeah,
prior
it's
to
my
that?
fault.
And
Yeah,
then,
yeah. I mean, those guys have given me free will to do whatever I want. Sometimes it's offensive, maybe it's not good, I don't know. We try and keep it light, but we try and keep it real. When I have my guest on, I call it peeling the onion or kicking the can. I think there are some things that are controversial, and we'll bring those things up. We'll talk to Steve Riley of LA Guns about the lawsuit with Tracy Guns and the animosity. We'll talk to guys like Mike Tramp or Bobby Blotzer from Rad about lawsuits and stuff like that. So, we get real. I don't ambush anybody, and I don't, it's not like Jerry Springer, but we do get real and we talk about stuff because people want to know these things, and so we definitely don't skirt the issues when it comes to who we have on the show and what's going on with them.
right. I mean, there's a good way to do it because if it's out there that a lot of these artists will say, yeah, we'll talk about it, but you also don't want to do it in a clickbait sort of way either. So it's like, do you find there's a balance of it too to not make it some kind of, you know what I mean, preposterous question, more like
Yeah,
a real thing?
of course. I mean, like I said, I like to keep it open and honest, but it's I like to be therapeutic for my guests also to talk about something they want to talk about. Maybe, we ask the question a little differently than the last 100 times they were asked about
Mhm.
the question. We try and get into it a little bit, and instead of, what's going on with, for example, a lawsuit, like, how do you feel about this? This guy was your bro and you guys are friends playing the same stage together. And now you
Mhm.
guys are fighting in a court of law. I mean, how does that make you feel? So we kind of get into those things,
Yeah.
instead of let's talk about the lawsuit and why it's happening. How do you feel about it? How does this make
Yeah.
you feel as a
No, I like
person?
that. I like that.
You know
It's
what
a
I mean?
different
So
angle.
we
I mean,
try and get into those kind of things.
I probably believe in asking different questions. That's kind of what I do too. So
Right on, right on.
I totally get it. So I guess so at any point now, are you doing session work? Are you open for session work? Are you doing any online drum lessons or?
Yeah, not any online drum lessons, but doing some session work. I've done a couple of these, these live stream things. I did a live stream with Gilby Clarke for the Monsters of Rock cruise. We did a video for Johnny Thunders. We did a song called "Born to Lose." So we
Mhm.
all did our remote versions of it, these pandemic sort of quarantine videos that a lot of people are doing. I was asked recently to do a Night Ranger song, so we're kind of putting that together where I'm going to track my drums and be in the video with
Oh, you
different
don't get to be
guys.
with them?
Sorry?
You don't get to record with the guys? You got to do it separately?
Yeah, it'll all be separately. You know what I mean? So it's very weird to me to do that, because part of the experience is doing something together with your musician friends, and it's just
Right.
it's kind of it's not really romantic going and doing it by yourself.
I know, especially it's not like a regular band. Like it's not like when you're like a local band, you guys are working on your project, setting it back and forth. It's like that's your one song with Night Ranger. You know what I mean? So some of these bands are like, how it'd be kind of fun to jam out with them in person.
Yeah. We're doing like for example, we're doing like a Night Ranger song, so it'll be a cover. It won't be with the guys.
Oh, okay. So I misunderstood you.
Yeah, no. Kelly Keegy, I can't get rid of him. I'm working on it though, so I can take his place. But it's just one of these things, you don't have anybody rooting for you in the studio. Like, dude, that was great. You just kind of track it. You send your tracks to somebody, they play guitar, bass, and then you film yourself and then you put up a video on YouTube. I mean, that's really kind of what it's come to. And it's awesome that people are still doing that. But, it's a very small amount of really what we desire, as musicians. We want to be out there playing and interacting with people. So that ultimately is my goal. I play in a band called Lost Angels, which is a sort of like an all-star-ish supergroup kind of thing. A lot of those terms are used sometimes very loosely, but we got John Corabi, Motley Crue, and Union, the Scream. We also have Eric Dover, who was in Slash and Snake Pit, Alice Cooper, as well as Ryan Roxy, Eric Brittingham from Cinderella, EJ Curse, bass player from Silent Right. So we're all kind of intertwined, and we have some dates in August in the UK. Whether they're going to stick or not is to be seen, but that's the next live show that I have coming up.
I actually think there's a good chance that, for that in August to happen. I feel like we're in a hot spot again, but I don't know.
Yeah,
we have enough time in between, and the vaccine's out there, so you really,
Yeah, it'll depend on if things start, that trajectory downward, if it kind of stays. So I think August is at that early point of when that window opens. So I guess between now and say June, we'll see how things go, and they'll probably make a decision whether to stick with the dates or not. But that's a fun band, man. We play all the tunes from all the guys in the bands, so we're doing Alice Cooper, Slash a Snake Pit, we're doing Cinderella songs, White Lion tunes, when John Corabi's out there with us, we're doing, Motley and Union, the Scream, and, so it's a good gig, man. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. John Corabi singing White Lion, that'd be pretty good. That probably sound really good.
That's usually Dover, Eric Dover singing that. Yeah, those two split the lead vocals. So John does all the nitty gritty, 70s stuff, and Dover sings. Dover's got to sing all the high shit, but it's awesome, man. Those guys are awesome.
That's really cool. Gilby Clarke, playing with him. Yeah. How'd that go? How did that happen?
I was Gilby's agent at the time back in 2009, 2010. I was working for an agency, and he was on our roster, and I'm trying to, book bands so we can generate some money and keep these guys out there. And I called Gilby and I said, hey man, I noticed you haven't done any shows in a while. Why not? He's like, well, I don't really have a band. I said, well, if you had a band, would you do some shows? He goes, yeah. So I said, well, what's your deal? He goes, well, I don't know. I just need some guys to play with. I go, well, I play drums. You want to get together and
That's
jam?
really passive about him.
He sent me 3 tunes, and he had played with EJ Curse before. So, and EJ was in a touring version of White Lion. In 2008. So I knew EJ, and we came down there. We played these 3 songs. It's like, cool. That felt good. Let's book some shows. So, I called him out of necessity going, hey man, you're on our roster, but we're not doing gigs. Yeah. What's up? And he says, I need a band. And we put a band together, and we've been doing it ever since. I pretty much play most of his gigs and almost 100%. I'm always his first phone call, which I really appreciate. But sometimes guys like Jimmy DeAnda, from Bullet Boys, take my spot. Great, fantastic drummers. When Jimmy DeAnda's subbing you out, it's like, man, that's pretty damn cool, because Jimmy's one of my favorite drummers. But Gilby's a solo artist. He's Gilby Clarke, and he can play with whoever he wants. And I appreciate that he gives me that first call and first dibs on gigs. It's just been so far and few between because of what we're all going through right now,
And I can imagine because he just had a new album come out sort of around the time of COVID too, so he would
Yeah,
have been
yeah, the
out
gospel
touring it.
truth. You know, I
Yeah.
I I played on a couple of those songs, and he's been kind of trickling them out because to release it, it might just kind of get lost in the
Yeah.
wind. So he's been
Mhm.
trickling out some singles here and there, and hopefully this year it'll actually see the light of day. It's a great album. It's really
Oh,
good.
I've heard. I think I agree with you. I
Yeah,
totally agree with you. It's a weird market, I think, for musicians because some people are like, do we release it? We record it? Do we hold it?
yeah,
You've heard
yeah,
every school of thought. March was supposed to be the date that everything was going to open up originally. That was the industry word. Remember,
yeah,
March. It's going to be March, and it's not going to be March. Everyone's
yeah.
done that for a while.
But it's starting to, I mean, we're seeing it here in Nevada, and I see LA, and we watch the headlines where things are starting to kind of, so the beginnings of, maybe some openings will happen.
Buck
So,
Cherry's doing something too. They're doing a little bit out there. Buck Cherry's doing a little bit out there.
yeah, I see they're playing. I saw that they're playing Florida. I mean, there's certain states where there's nothing going on, and or apparently nothing going on. So these bands are playing, and listen, man, without getting political and talking about all the chaos of the
Yeah.
pandemic, I get it. And you know what? If you don't feel comfortable going to see a live show with some people there, uh, stay home, and that's
Yeah.
perfectly cool too. But I commend these bands going out there trying to deliver something to say, hey, let's just go out there, and if people show up, cool. If they don't, and listen, I think you need to be responsible anyway. I mean, these things about these things you need to do when you go out there. Wash your hands, and you should have been washing your hands a long time ago.
There's a lot
We
of there's a
shouldn't
lot
take
of
a
hygiene rules
pandemic.
that people shouldn't have needed to learn during this teenage
Exactly.
push. Yeah.
So, there will be some good things. I think the food industry is going to probably keep their mask on because that's probably not a bad thing,
I'm kind of okay with that myself. Sometimes I've gotten from people, I'm like, maybe a face mask would be good, like a whole one.
the
Cover
entire head.
everything up. Yeah. I
Exactly.
don't know. You're sweating and I don't know what's going on, man. Well, I know. And the thing is, like, Buck Tree doing is kind of good because I imagine they're going to really follow the protocols really good and kind of be a good leader on that.
Yeah.
Because I know Josh was out there. Actually, he was actually doing testing for a while. He was helping as a volunteer testing people.
Oh, wow.
So,
I didn't
he's
know that.
totally on his, he get all bundled up in the, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah. No, that's cool.
that's a great thing
Listen,
as a volunteer doing that. So, he was probably top of the game, making sure things are going good.
sure, sure, sure. Yeah. I
Following
mean, you got to be
protocol.
responsible and respectful of people. Like, people still want to go see live bands, but they're a little leery. They think they're going to step outside and get the plague, and I get it. I don't feel that way, but I get it. And so you want, if you're gonna put on live performances, you got to do the protocol and make people feel confident and safe that they're going to go out there and see a show and not come home sick. Nobody wants to get sick, whatever it is. So I get it.
Right. Yeah, I get some good examples. Some shows doing that for some bands, showing the protocol. The band's following the protocol. And you get no numbers from it. You're not like, oh, you know what I mean? It's going to make it easier for the door to open for everybody else. Being like, okay, here's the
Yeah.
rules. Here's what we need to do. Let's do
Yeah.
it. Let's play. I get, the lockdown and for safety, whatever. I'm 100%. It's a hard call because I believe in all the safety parts, but then I feel for everybody else that can't work. I mean,
Of course.
there's,
Yeah.
there's absolutely no win. Either people it spreads and people die, or people can't work and they starve, or their businesses fail. I mean, it's a hot mess. There really is no perfect
Yeah,
solution.
and it's tricky, and it's not to downplay. I mean, listen, people have lost relatives and loved ones to this, and they've lost loved ones and relatives to a lot of other things. You step out in your car and you get hit by a bus. I mean, there's it's a risky world we live in, and so anything can happen. And listen, if you are just completely freaked out by this, you have the right to feel that way and live your life your way. And I don't think it's irresponsible to go out and start doing these things, in a responsible manner, and
Right.
letting people feel comfortable to go see a live gig. Some people think it's careless, and I think as humans living life, going out in the world can be careless. It's just, but that's our nature, to be out and to experience things. And I just would hate to see people become hostages, and not really, because I don't think that's really a way of living, living in fear, and you got to be, there's a lot of crap that can happen to us that we just take it for granted. We go out there and we live life. And if you start thinking about, well, God, if I do this, or if I do that, or if I do the other, this, that, and the other, one of these things are going to happen. And that's just not a way for me personally to live.
I see that, and there are a lot more challenges than we thinks about. but obviously, I think this is just more. It's easier to get caught. I mean, if I wear a mask, I get hit by a bus. The mask is going to help me.
It's not.
I should wear that mask. Damn it.
Yeah.
So it is a little easier to get this, and it is a little more fatal for people or
Sure.
for anybody. You know, I think the odds are increased is what it is. And let's come back. I want everybody to live, be happy, be healthy.
Absolutely.
But I also think I think that with the bands that are doing this, I do agree that if the bands do it right, protocol right, and it'll support both sides of it, people being safe and people getting out.
Exactly.
Which is really win-win, and that's what we all want, really.
100% agree.
I'm hopeful. I'm totally hopeful that these protocols these bands are doing.
Sure.
The only concern I have is and other artists have brought this up. When you guys go out and start touring now, it'll affect you too. What's it going to break down? Is there going to be cleaning costs put onto the band? The venue is it going to be, you know what I'm saying? It could be a whole new world now.
Well, I mean, one thing that's very easy to kind of figure out is that with limited capacities, you can only sell so many tickets. So guarantees are going to go down. For sure. Mm-hmm. And for a band, whatever band I'm in, whether it's Gilby or Lost Angels or whatever I'm doing, the flights haven't gone down, the hotels and the travel expense haven't gone. None of those things go down, but the guarantees are going to go down. So now that means hey man, are you willing to go out for 3 weeks and make half the money you made last year? Yeah. And, so it's a matter of going, well, I don't know if I want to go out, and also with the risk, so now we have this new risk to go out there and make half the money. And listen, if you have a venue that holds 500 people and you can sell 200 tickets, if one of those dudes in there are sick, you know what I mean? Who knows if if you happen to be, get a little loose at the end of the night, you're at the bar, you're loading out somebody.
It's
you don't know who's going to give it to you. So I mean, there just are these opportunities where things. And listen, it's not even this COVID-19. It's getting the flu or whatever's out there that people can transmit. Nobody wants to get sick ever. So yeah, I get it, man. It's a little like, for example, if I have to go and get a vaccine to go to the UK, I'm going to think about that first. That's going to be something that's going to weigh on me. Maybe I'll hold off on traveling until I know a little bit more about these vaccines. So, that's something as well. I don't mind taking a test and testing negative within 72 hours, but am I going to go get stuck? I'm not quite sure yet, so these artists that are traveling and doing these things have to think about what the restrictions are going to be and if they're willing to do that. And, myself, I'm going to think about these things before I do that.
I can see that. Yeah. I was just bringing up the point that I think a lot of challenges that the artists, no matter where they stand on it, is going to be added on top of it because no one thinks of all the challenges. The band comes in, it's all rock and roll. They don't think about the cost. I've always bring this up, the cost of shirts, how much it really costs for shirt, why it costs so much, how that really helps the band and on so many levels that they don't even realize. Sometimes that's the income. You make the shirt, the cost to make the shirt, it costs. Then you go in there, then they charge you at the club for the shirt. So I mean, there's like so many levels of different things depending on what you're going that people don't think about. So I'm just kind of like throwing that out there that people think, oh, now they're going to have on top of that more hands in the pie.
Yeah,
it's literally
and the pie got smaller. You know what I mean? So it's going to be very tricky for bands to get out there. But I think myself personally, would I go out there and take a pay cut to do it? Absolutely. If it's the right band,
no one's making anything right now, especially. You're making nothing. Half of it's better.
A percentage of something is better than 100% of nothing. And ultimately, when we're playing in our garages, annoying our neighbors, playing drums. We didn't do it for the money and the girls. We did it because we love rock and roll, but ultimately when it becomes your living, you have to, start to think about that. I mean, think about the restaurants that are still staying in business, knowing that they can only sell so many hamburgers because there's only so many people that will show up. That's what they do. They love selling food and making people happy. So they're going to sell what they can. So if I have to go out there and make a few bucks less than what I made before, I'm willing to consider that for sure.
Well, I think whatever it's going to be, it's going to be temporary. I think just once we get past it and they get it. So I think the first year, I think it's going to be crazy because like every band now is probably going to they better have their best album coming out because everyone's had time to write some really good songs. There's really no excuse about that.
Exactly.
But there's going to be a lot of bands that are going to want to tour all at once. So it's going to be, and now the clubs are going to be starving too. So they're going to be in this weird spot where they really need the money and they're going to be in a power position because how many bands are going to want to play out right now? Before it was a little more staggered. So
sure.
I'm hoping that the clubs are going to be a little more flexible with the artists. I'm saying I hope nobody takes advantage of each situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. It's definitely very tricky, to navigate, tricky waters to navigate. And, but I think ultimately it'll work itself out. I hope, bands will stagger their stuff so people can come out, and enjoy stuff at a
because
safe pace.
it's really an ecosystem, all of them, the clubs and the bands, everyone kind of works together. So,
Yeah.
If you start cutting yourself off with the bands, you have no bands. I don't know how much food you're going to sell if it's a venue made for live music.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a club or something for a band, so they have a better shot. So I wouldn't.
It's a tough business, man. It's certainly not when kids ask me, what would your advice be? Unless you love really doing it, don't get into the business. It's a tough business, whether you're a band or a venue. Those are very tough spots to be right now. Musicians are not making money, and venues are not making money, and I feel terrible for all of those people.
Yeah, I do too.
Sad.
Excellent. So, well, we know where you're at with a lot of things, kind of a holding pattern, but you got your show. We're going to put that up underneath, under this so people can go to see your show. So we'll go check out the show, listen to it, become a fan. I like your jive, your jib, they say.
Yeah, right on, man. Right on. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's been therapeutic to be able to do that and to interact, play new music, talk about news, talk about silly stuff, things like the Gorilla Glue girl, putting Gorilla Glue in her hair and wondering why, it's not washing out. Stuff like that. We talk about stuff that we hear every day. And, I try and talk about what I think people are thinking about, because I think about it. I'm a pretty simple guy, and then having great guests on, different people from all walks of life. It's really a good time. It's been a great opportunity to at least try and hone in on that radio show thing, because I enjoy it. I really do.
Do you do it from home?
I do it from home. Yeah. Right in my home studio. Used to have a station when I was at the other place, used to go into, and then I started getting I got the board and the microphone and the ears, and, it's certainly a comfortable, atmosphere, being at home. It's cool, but there's something to be said about, when you're driving to the studio and you get there, when you're going to your job, when you leave, you go somewhere else, for example, a lot of people are wearing, sweatpants and shorts and stuff. I put on jeans. I take a shower before I do my radio show. I put on jeans because I feel like I have to transform into work mode. So, even though I'm at home, nobody's here. I put on jeans and I try and get into that mode, because otherwise I think you become complacent and lazy, and it's easy to do these days. So I try and do something that's different than what I'm doing normally.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
It's been fun and interesting, and I'm going to check out your show too, and hope everyone else does it too.
Yeah, man. DirtyRadio.fm on Dirty Radio Classics, our Dirty Radio Classics channel. This, that, and the other radio show. Wednesdays live 2 to 5. And you can also find out everything. Not much going on now, but things are on the horizon at drummertroy.com.